Hi everyone. So I'm David Wishart, and I'm from SSH. I look after our consulting and technical sales business for Europe. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our company that you might not have heard of us before. Some trends that we're seeing with our enterprise customers in terms of moving to the cloud and their access management policies, and then also just how our solutions fit in with that. I just want to also say thoughts and prayers to for the tragic accident last night. So, who are SSH? Our founder, Tatu Ylönen, was a researcher at Helsinki University, and back in 1995 his research was stolen, and he found out that someone had actually hacked and found his password over the internet or over the network. So because he's a very, very clever fellow, much more clever than me, he decided to invent his own security protocol rather than just maybe changing his password or doing that. So anyway, he was clearly a clever fellow. From then, we got heavily involved in creating patents around internet security standards, writing and co-authoring RFCs. And we also have co-authored the NIST guidelines for SSH access, which is now recognized as industry standard. So then in 1997, we introduced the IP security toolset, which was widely adopted in Silicon Valley. And following on from that, we created our own proprietary version of SSH. So you might not have heard of SSH as a company, but we actually invented the SSH protocol. And then from then on, we gained a lot of new customers from the Tectea product. And then following on from that, we were listed on the Finnish NASDAQ. So after introducing Tectea, it became pretty much the de facto method for sysadmins, database admins, application support people to access their Linux systems. And they're doing this over the course of 10, 15 years using SSH keys, but they're doing this in an unmanaged fashion. So that created a compliance nightmare for who has access to what, particularly in large, highly regulated organizations. So I was actually working at Deutsche Bank whenever I was trying to fix their key management problem. And I ended up bringing SSH in to help me fix it, and then they brought me out to help sell it to other banks. So that was where the key management product came from. Then we introduced a crypto auditor, which is an inline auditing device. So it monitors HTTP, RDP traffic, and SSH. And finally, our latest product is an access management system for cloud, so cloud and on-premise. Who we work with? As I mentioned, we work with a lot of the global, highly regulated finance customers. So all the customers here use our SSH key management product. They're all also on the journey moving to the cloud, and they're trying to work out how to move their access management to the cloud. So we're helping them with that with our PrivX product. We work with some of the largest security and technology vendors in the world. Symantec use our technology to protect them. Walmart, the biggest retailer in the world. STMicro, anyone who's got a mobile phone here has probably got an STMicro chip inside it. And then we're also working with lots of systems integrators to help deploy our products. So they put our products into their stack and help deploy it. So that's where we are. Just going to talk about a trend that we're seeing amongst our enterprise customers. So most of our enterprise customers are trying to move to the cloud in one way or another, and quite often they'll start with developers wanting to run some workloads in the cloud. But and AWS has been very popular in terms of their adoption. So they basically have a low cost, quite flexible costing, They've got lots and lots of products being added into the marketplace all the time. So that's become very, very popular for people to start off. But then you get the cost implications of very large organizations running lots and lots of workloads in a single cloud instance, and the CFOs and CIOs want to avoid the cost implications of having long-term contracts. So what happens is they tend to diversify and use multiple cloud vendors. Additionally, you might have big systems integrators like IBM who are running part of their infrastructure already, and then they're offering them to run in their own private cloud or public cloud. So next up, we have workload differentiation. So what we find here is we're seeing customers who basically they're getting quite mature in their thought process in terms of moving stuff to the cloud. So if they're like a heavy Microsoft Exchange SharePoint user, they'll tend to move those workloads into Azure. If they're running data analytics or voice recognition or machine learning, they tend to move to Google Cloud Platform for that. If they've got online transaction processing already running in-house, Oracle are providing cloud instances for them to run to that. So all these things are making it so that you basically have to have an access management solution that works with multiple cloud vendors. Additionally, you have data sovereignty. So quite often you'll have, particularly with government organizations, they want all the capabilities of moving to the cloud, but what they don't want is to move it outside of a particular geographical region. So, for example, AWS have installed a purpose-built data center in Bahrain for the Bahrain government to run their workloads in the cloud, but in the geographical region. Equally, you'll have Alibaba Cloud, where Chinese companies global Chinese companies are getting the benefits of moving to the cloud without having to move outside of the geographical region. Next, you have access to hardware. So some cloud vendors like Google and AWS are buying technology-specific or technologies that enhance their offering. So having the fastest GPUs, having SSDs inside their cloud offering gives them a competitive advantage, for example, for machine learning and data analytics. So these companies are getting exclusive rights to some hardware. Finally, resilience. So although lots of people think that cloud is naturally resilient with availability zones and the like, there is still like a chance of outage. So as an example, AWS S3 last year, they had a large outage. So that causes people to think about using multiple clouds to move their workloads, or at least have the ability to move their workloads. So that's multi-cloud. The next thing, just-in-time access management. So this is quite similar to Zero Trust, which was touched on earlier. So just-in-time access management is the right user getting access to the right account on the right server at the right time. So for the right user, you have to have your identity verified. So using AD or LDAP or OpenID or multi-factor authentication. The right account, we're advocating that you use a role-based system, so you have a reduced number of accounts on your target system to manage, and then the right time. So you don't want to have this access set up all the time. You want to have this access set up so that the right user only has access to the target system for an incident or for a change. So that's where we want to get to. In order to do that, we're advocating using ephemeral certificates to provide the access. So just-in-time, one-time tokens, and then obviously integrating with your ticketing or change management systems. So the product that I'm going to talk about now is PrivX. So this is an access management system for multi-cloud or on-premise. The key benefits of it are it uses just-in-time certificates, so for SSH and RDP. So there's no static credentials on your target system. There's no passwords on your target system. There's no SSH keys on your target system. Everything is provided using an ephemeral certificate. There's no agents to install. It's very scalable, so you can install it into Kubernetes or Packer or CloudFormation to have it auto-scale as you need. It works with on-premise and also with multi-cloud. So the cloud environments that we support are AWS, Azure, Google Platform, and OpenStack, and we're adding to that every release cycle. Also, this was probably touched on earlier, automation. So where we see our customers wanting to get to is having infrastructure as a code. So you don't have the need for people logging on. What you want to have is having your systems built, and you don't have to have you have automated processes for them to be built and configured with the right access. And all your hosts need to be, the life cycle of your hosts need to be automatically discovered and automatically removed whenever they're built and decommissioned. So that's the key benefits of PrivX, the product. I'm just going to explain how it works. So what PrivX essentially does is it's a bridge between your user identities. So these are all can be authenticated using either OpenID, SSO, using Kerberos or Active Directory. And these users will have a group associated with them in that user directory, and that user group will be associated with a PrivX role. So then that PrivX role gives role-based access to your target systems. So that role, for example, you'd have a role that could be, let's say, Linux admin, and that would have access to root on a list of Linux servers. The good thing about PrivX is that you don't have to install any agents onto the servers. You just have to run one deployment script, which sets up the trust relationship between PrivX and your target environment. And this can be just run at build time. So where we want to get to is having the right users, having the right access to the right systems at the right time, all the time. You can access your servers or accounts that you support over logging into the PrivX GUI, or you can use your native clients. So once this is set up, every access that your sysadmins, your database admins, or your application support, they can log into their system only if they've had a ticket granted, and then everything's session recorded and fed into your SIM system for alerts and reporting. Okay, so so just to recap on the product itself, it provides just-in-time access. So we have so you've got a reduced threat. There's no static credentials on your target system. It's agentless, so you don't have to install any agents or keep agents updated on your target system either. You can integrate with your identity management systems seamlessly, and also provide single sign-on. You've got hybrid cloud support, so you can use this for accessing your on-premise servers, your cloud servers, even your network devices. You can use PrivX to connect to those. We're also adding in features to connect to HTTP, so you can connect to applications or critical infrastructure UIs. Everything's session recorded, and you've got visibility of everything that happens for like full session recording and replay. And finally, it's very scalable, so you can basically build this out and auto scale within something like Kubernetes or Docker, and that is it. Okay, did I save you some time there? Okay, thanks very much.